Hi and welcome to my chess channel on YouTube. I come to you all the way from Christchurch, New Zealand, the deep south of the world. So anyway, here we have this position that was in the Dominion Sunday Times on September the 8th, 1968. This position was a diagram position where people would be able to ponder the game and all the sort of setup and work on it in their head and usually get an answer the week later. Anyway, so that's 50 years ago now, and just over 50 years ago without giving today's date. So that was the 8th of September 1968. So white is to move here, and this was classed as white looks like they're going to win, maybe a pawn, because of the X-ray position of the pawn on d4. Win a pawn or get a pawn back, I haven't really checked yet. So it looks like white can just take the pawn on d4 because of the resulting end position. Queen c8, rook c8, rook c8 is checkmate after queen d8, rook d8. And these are very, very good for you to look in your head, these sorts of positions, because that's what chess is all about. Unless one's a bit lazy like me at times and wanting to look at the score of the game, how it all went, instead of trying to nut it out. So white here is to move, and can they play knight d4 or can they play bishop d4? So can they play bishop d4 or knight d4? I'm not sure which one is played here by white actual, because this game did occur back some years ago. The players' names are not recognizable by myself, so I won't try to state their names. Okay, so here we have knight takes pawn for white, knight d4, knight takes d4. Knight d4 or bishop d4, does it make a difference? Let's try knight d4. Then we have bishop takes d4 and bishop d4, and now we have the final move, which I've already explained, is queen takes rook on c8. And notice that if the rook takes the queen on c8, the black rook on e8 takes the queen on c8, then rook c8 captures from white, rook takes c8, check, and there's nothing that black can do other than interpose their queen or resign, because they can't move their king, of course, so it's a more or less a back rank checkmate. So that's with black playing knight d4 on move 1 for black. After knight d4, bishop d, knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4 does not work because of queen c8, etc. So is it okay for white to take the pawn with all that information at hand? So now you may wish to ponder or pause your thing, or just save this position, or what have you. So, and now I will give the line here, and as mentioned previously, and I will show the moves as they go, it is best to do this in your head, because the hands can't see and the eyes can't think. So here we go. We've got first move, knight d4 or bishop d4. Bishop takes bishop or knight on d4, and then the other one captures. like bishop or knight captures. And then we have a wee surprise move. So what is that surprise move? And what does it threaten? So then we have knight. So we have knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, knight d4, queen c8, because we're threatening the queen, of course, with our rook on c8 and with our knight on d4. So rook d4 does not go very well for white, because then black merely takes the queen on c2. So we then have from the start, let's say we go knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, knight d4, spoken like an auctioneer. Knight d4 threatens the queen, check, threatens the queen. Then the queen takes the rook, c8, and here is black lost. Because I haven't told you the result yet. Has black just lost? So after knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, knight d4, queen c8, has black just lost? So good on you if you've seen it. I can't really give you a chocolate fish. I would if I could. After knight d4, bishop d4, and it's a better to take it with the bishop for black. Bishop d4, knight d4, queen c8. If we take the rook, the queen on c8 here, okay, if we take this queen on c8, I can't point to it. If we take the rook on the queen on c8, then yes, it's going to be just rook c8 takes the rook, and it's check, and soon thereafter checkmate, because there's no pieces like the bishop to go back to f8 anymore. So it's just sadly rook, queen d8, rook d8, checkmate. So it makes a very big difference why to take it with the bishop first. So we have knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, knight d4. Now we have queen c8, and it looks like it's all over now. But there's a wee move that always your opponent has to answer to, and that is, of course, that wee word check. So here we have knight d4, bishop d4, bishop d4, knight d4, threatening the queen twice on c2 with the rook and the knight. Queen c8. Now we have, good on you if you saw this, knight e2 check. And this isn't to win the rook on c1, because then black would be met with rook, queen takes rook on e8, and it's checkmate. So knight e2 check, and if the king moves to f1, then can you see that black stinks move? Well done if you can, even if you're a very, very good player. So well done if you can, because all the pieces are out the way, the bishop's out the way, the black pawn's out the way from black, and now all of a sudden you've got, if king f1, queen f2 is checkmate if king f1. So what if king h1, a little bit easier for very, very good players, but very good to see anyway. Then we have a form of a smothered checkmate with knight f2 check. So if you can't understand what I'm talking about, here we go now. Okay, now for the first time I'm going to play the moves out on the board. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the engine on. No, I won't, because that turns the arrows on and people don't like the arrows. Oops, we've got the computer on again. Sorry, it's my fault. Now we have bishop d4, and if instead rook d4, then just knight d4, etc. Same as the mainland line. So we have bishop d4, knight d4, and as you would appreciate, if black now takes white's queen, it's checkmate shortly thereafter. But you can see all the red arrows everywhere because they're saying, well, yeah, this is no good for black, but hang on a second. So queen, and if the queen tries to go, say, here, then we have rook c1, etc. So I could look at that as well. So we have here queen c8. So if queen here, then just merely rook c1 check. And if queen c1, then we have knight e2 check. And if the king moves to f1, then we have queen f2 checkmate. If the king moves to h1, we have knight f2 checkmate. Or we have, if queen c1, we could be greedy and take knight e2 check. And then we can take the queen, but it's not as good as one of either the knight f2 checkmate or queen f2 checkmate if the king moves to f1, and if the king moves to h1, then knight f2 should suffice. So now we have queen c8. Now very, very bad for black to do this because it's curtains after that. The only move for black after rook takes rook check is queen d8. But here is the whole niceties of this position. Knight e2 check, and as you would appreciate, without going into much detail, if king h1 from g1, then knight f2 is clearly checkmate because the king cannot move or take the knight on f2, so that would be checkmate. And if king f1, then queen f2 is the finish of the game. And if you play something silly here, then you will lose. So if you try to be smart by playing knight d2, you're just going to lose to this and the game's over for black. Even though I like to be acting a little bit, I like to try to play some sort of stupid move like that, it can easily lose for me. That is the end of my session. I hope you enjoyed it, no matter what your chess strength is. And thank you very much for viewing my chess channel. Welcome to my new subscriber. I really appreciate new subscribers. That's David Weegenaar, over and out.